I tried to Google it, but I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, it says recording.
Okay, cool.
Everyone knows we did have some small talk and discussion before I just hoisted the gospel upon Sarah. So at the crux of it, which is, crux is actually cross. So at the crux of the gospel is the cross. And the good news to the world that Christians have for anyone is that Jesus came as the God-man. He was born and lived the perfect life, and then died the death that like atones for the sins of the world. And then he is raised from the grave, defeating death, and is ascended into heaven until his return. So the gospel is that fact that God came down and did something about, because we all look around and say, this is a broken world. This isn't how it's supposed to be. There's evil and sin. Christians say sin, which is kind of the minute you start saying that word, people kind of tune you out these days.
No, I think most sins are valid.
It's so clear that like the world is not how it should be, or that's a delusion that people suffer from. Like, oh, the world's not like it should be, and the Christians have something to say about that. But anyways, so the gospel is the good news that God came down and did something about the state of the world in the life, death, resurrection of Jesus, and then that gives humans hope to place their faith and trust in that, in the person of Jesus and in what he did for us. And that anybody, male, female, slave or free, Greek, or there's a verse in the New Testament that talks about like how it's for everyone. There's lots of verses that talk about that, but that's the gospel. And then it could kind of be expanded to like Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And then Adam and Eve fall into sin. And that's you can kind of make it into more of like an entire Bible. The whole Bible is the gospel, but then there's like the good news of Jesus. That's like the
Do you guys follow the, I don't know what the right word is, but do you have the Lilith in your story or no? Adam's first wife?
Lilith?
Yeah.
No,
okay. That's an older Hebrew concept, I think, so that's fair.
Eve is like a different.
The story goes from the old Hebrew Bible that God created Adam and Lilith at the same time, but Lilith refused to lay beneath Adam, so she was cast out of the Garden of Eden, or given wings from God to be free, whichever. And then after that, God made Eve from the rib or whatever. So
I've never heard that.
You've never heard that? You've
never heard of the Lilith thing.
Look it up. It's very interesting. At least before King James.
Heresy.
Heresy. It's from the Bible. It's from your guys' Bible, the earlier version of it. Just look it up. I mean, I'm not saying you have to resonate with it. I'm just saying it's good to know the history.
Yeah, I'll look into it. Interesting.
So I don't know if I have a viewpoint on the gospel at this moment. I think I would need more depth to clarification before I can give you my opinion on it. Unless that's not if you're just supposed to share it with somebody who doesn't believe, I can say I digested part of it there. I'm not sure though if I understand enough of the reasoning to make a statement on my opinion about it.
Gotcha. So I'm sinful and you're sinful, and every human being to ever walk the earth except Jesus is dead in their sins. There's a verse in Romans, the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul wrote like half the New Testament, the letters that he writes to the churches, and he one of the main ones is the book of Romans. He's writing to the church in Rome, and he says, the wages of sin is death, and all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Those are two kind of staples in the New Testament, those ideas of everybody deserves to die, basically. If you sin one time against the holy God, was just so holy, like one tiny imperfection. He can't stand. He can't be in the presence of that. So we all need a savior, basically.
By being made in God's image, though, wouldn't he also be fallible and to a degree?
Wouldn't God be fallible?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Doesn't that make sense? If he made us in his image, then, I mean, everything makes mistakes. Everything has a chance to fall. And by being truly divine, you'd have to incorporate all elements of creation.
Hmm. My thought is we're made in God's image. And so that's kind of where I think pantheism, the mystical religions, kind of go off track, is they think that the image of God that we have is equated with being divine ourselves. When I think the way that the Bible talks about being in the image of God is that we have consciousness, we can love and be in relationships and like build societies. That's how we're in his image, but we're not like equal to him. So I think.
I guess my perception of it's always been. Oh, go ahead.
What?
Finish your statement. Whatever.
I think my thought was over. But
I feel like we carry a piece of God in us by being souls that we were created. Like we're little shards of the divine in my mind, and to be more godlike would be to act more like Jesus by being good to each other, which is all that the divine really is love.
Yeah.
So, how are we like God? We're like God because we have the capacity for love and creation. We have the capacity for infinite goodness.
Definitely, but what do you do about, like, when I look into my own soul, I see Christ likeness, but I also see gross stuff too.
You have to just learn how to be stronger than the gross. We are all faced with things every day that we have to decide: am I going to be the good guy or the bad guy? Just because you have the bad guy and like instinctually in you doesn't mean that you're bad. It means that you're making the conscious choice to act over that impulse, which I think makes us more good. If we don't choose the path of the gross, we choose the path of like being good to each other. That's what we were supposed to be doing. I think spiritually, that's what Jesus wanted of us, to become more pure, more good, more making that
agree
choice.
With that.
We all have stuff in us. There's always gonna be duality. It's just that choosing the right path makes you stronger in the good side. Just like the Knights of the Old Republic video game. If you ever played that video game, it was super dope. You could go light side or dark side, and each choice you made would like give you either the one or the other. I always ended up gray. Sorry?
What's the game called?
Knights of the Old Republic. It's a Star Wars game.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, Star Wars. Star Wars has, I think I've actually hardly ever watched Star Wars, which is kind of crazy. But
I didn't like
Star Wars. There's like a pantheistic. There's a pantheistic undertone to that series.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Probably why my parents don't let me be exposed to it.
You got to be exposed to everything in order to really know what your calling is.
I agree. So one big, I'm agreeing with half of what you're saying, and this I don't want to like turn this into a debate, but
no, debates are great. Whatever works for the homework assignment.
Sweet. Yeah, I've got the Lilith on my homework list. So it's just kind of clear that, like, I don't know, like maybe your view is that, which is like more of a pantheistic, like the divine shard in me, and that we're basically good. We just have to choose the good over the bad. As a Christian, even though like I agree with some of that, I'm also like, I can't choose the good. If it wasn't for like the grace of God, I would choose the bad.
And you're not really in touch with your divine energy. You have the, okay, I think part of making that choice is touching the divine within you. That's the divine without, as above, so below. Like,
where do you get your, sorry to,
yeah.
I was just going to ask where you're like, what are some main like texts or like people that you
I've been studying
Where have you gotten your ideas from?
religion my whole life. I can't begin to cite reference. My library burned down in my house 3 years ago.
Oh no.
So I've been studying magic and religion ever since I was old enough to like really study. Like 15, I had my first deck of tarot cards, and there is so much similar in every culture, in every religion. There's a great flood and Sumerian myth. Like, I can't tell you what to read to find this stuff. I can just tell you what's inside of me that I can give out. Like the as above, so below. That's a hermetic principle, I believe, or an alchemy concept.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just like the microcosm, macrocosm. We are all just little pieces of the all. I'll try to get some book references for you. I'm just not even sure where to start. I've been doing this.
Yeah. Part of my degree is a global studies. It's called Master of Divinity Global Studies. So
Cool.
That's why I did the global studies part of that. Like the little, you could do pastoral counseling or church ministry, church planting, and then I chose the global studies cognate because I wanted to learn more about different worldviews.
Good idea. I think it'll give you more conviction in your own view, and also let you incorporate pieces that you wouldn't have seen that were the exact same. As long as we're all acting out of love and trying to help each other, then I think that we're doing the right thing. I don't think that God's going to judge me for not being a Christian when I get wherever I get. I think He's going to say, you know what? You did my work. You've done everything I've asked of people. Doesn't matter who you said was your God. Come on through. And I'm like, no, man, I got work to do still. I'm going to peace out in my spaceship and, save the world somewhere else.
My gosh.
This is my true faith, my real belief. I'm not even messing with you. This is just how
I know.
roll.
I know. I wasn't laughing at you.
You don't have to be Christian to act right.
I agree with that. And that's a terrible thing that Christians come off that way, that we think that.
I have one question. Are you familiar with the part of the Christian text that says that I couldn't find it. I looked for it last night. To see the future is to be against God, basically, is what it said. Are you familiar with that?
I know that that's a...
Yeah. Okay, so yeah. I was born with dreams that came true. I was a little kid. My dreams came true. So I don't think that God forsook me as a child and sent me to hell, or like sent me to the devil so that the devil would work through me. I was a kid. Children are the most pure incarnation of the divine that there is. I think it's a gift from God, and that the people who wrote the Bible don't want anyone to be able to touch the true divinity, because then they can't control us. If we were all, if you gather with one more person, you and one other, then you're gathering my name. It's like a church, something to that degree. We don't have to be following the books written by men to follow the teachings of God. And I can't say that it's anything but a gift from God, because I used to think it was a curse to see the future in my dreams and stuff. And now I can connect with my sister who's beyond, the veil. And that is the greatest gift. And all the trouble I went through and all the pain and all the questioning of faith. I mean, that was truly a gift, I think. Not from the devil, not a trick, not treachery. It lets me serve goodness in a way that I couldn't have done it any other way.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that from knowing you through work and just conversation, that you definitely are, like, there's a type of Christian, and you like embody the Christ, the way that Christ would live, just like work ethic, treating others.
Help where you can. Don't take so much. If you have extra, everybody should have some.
What do you do about Jesus, though?
I had a big problem with Jesus for most of my life, and then I think I met one of his distant relatives, and after that and meeting or going through my college test about Jesus, I have a lot more peace and respect for him.
But he claimed to be God in the flesh.
We are all God in the flesh. We are all the capacity to be the same as Jesus. I think that's kind of what he came here to tell us, is we can be without sin by being good to each other.
Well, what
is your soul, in your opinion? What does your soul manifest from? What is it made out of?
Spirit.
Spirit. What is spirit? Spirit's part of the divine Trinity, right? That's God.
Well, I'll tell you who I think God is. God is the triune, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He has to be three, but he's a divine, he's a diversity within unity. So he is unity, but he has diversity within his unity. And three persons who have had relationships from eternity past. And that's part of why we're created in his image too, is that we share the relational God created us so that we can have a relationship with him and with other people. But he is other. He's like, the word holy means other. So I'm not God. That whole idea.
God would think that connection to God is what makes you make the choices to be good, right? And when you have a connection with something, you have to be a part of it.
There's the Holy Spirit's job.
Now, I want to just say one thing too.
Yep.
Just because you are of any type of agreement with a non-Christian does not make you less Christian. What it will do is make you more able to bring in the truth to your people. You might be the point that breaks the war between pagans and Christians and say, look, we're all saying the same thing. That's what I believe my role here on earth is to bring everyone together under like the banner of truth and goodness. Doesn't matter how you treat. We're just here to be good to each other. We're here to be better people. Saving the world.
Oh, you say save the world?
My whole goal. Save the world. That's what we got to do. That's what we're all here for, I think.
Can you hear me typing?
No.
There is a quote I want to read to you as a mic drop.
Excellent. I love a mic drop.
Basically, you keep saying that like we're all saying the same thing, and all religions basically say the same thing. I totally disagree with that.
Okay.
And the quote is something about, it's very like...
I don't have to be atheist or satanic because I'm not even trying to roll with that crap.
I think it's a Christian like philosopher or something. And he says, oh yeah, it's like a sarcastic jab at people that say what you had said about how everybody says the same thing. And he basically says, oh yeah, we only differ. Basically everything's the same, except we differ on our view of like salvation, of God, of the afterlife, of the nature of humanity. Like he lists all these big things.
Really differ on those things? Can you honestly say that you can pointedly take that down and break it down to where we disagree?
Well, we obviously disagree about the nature of God. You have more of a pantheistic view, and I have more of a monotheistic view.
I think that there's a trillion different versions of God, or like representations of God, avatars of God. I think that all the different like deities and the different pantheons are just expressions of the God that you guys call one God, the God. I call it the all.
I think I'd call him the all in all too. But so in the Old Testament, God speaks to Moses and says, I am that I am. And the whole point of the people of Israel is that God has revealed himself. There's all these people groups who they know they're here. They know there's something out there, but God reveals himself to the people of Israel and says, this is who I am. I'm Yahweh. I'm the one and only.
Doesn't it also say somewhere that if you beheld the true form of God, we would all have our heads explode?
Sorry, say it again.
Isn't there also something that says somewhere that if we beheld God in his true form, all of our heads would explode?
That's, I think, probably a sarcastic.
Well, I mean, yeah,
not heads explode, but I think we would, and that's the sin thing. A sinful.
How did God reveal himself to us then, or the people? What? How could God then reveal himself to those people? Contradictions written by men. It's not about what the men think, what the humans writing the words think. It's about the actual divine's will. I feel like it's the same in a lot of cultures.
I know, but the whole point of the Bible is that it is written by men, yes, but the the information it contains is it's inspired by God in my view. So he's inspired his prophets and Paul and Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The Bible is tough, but I think it's unique and it's not just a work of man. And that's the whole point of it, is it reveals the true way. And all the ways can't be right. I think there's this relativistic spirit of the age that says your truth and my truth and we're all good and we're all the ways are right. And I think that's false.
Why?
Because we see in the real world, I don't think Muslims believe in the same God as me, and Christians that have killed in the name of holy war or whatever have not been following the true God either. And Muslims,
I will agree with you that some religions and some paths are not on the positive note. Some people do worship an energy that's definitely not positive or unifying. I will agree with that. I think the Muslim people say if you're not Muslim, then they have to kill you, right?
There's debate about there's the radical Muslim and then there's the peaceful Muslim. But if you read the Quran itself, which I really hardly have, so I don't have a ton of authority to say this, but if you read the Quran and if you study the Prophet Muhammad, clearly it's a holy war. It's conquer the world, infidels die until
I think that is more on the opposite spectrum than the good energy. You're right about that.
So good and bad, I think there's evil and there's good. And saying that everything's the same discounts the fact that there is child sacrifice in the Canaanite culture and terrorism and child rape and genital mutilation in Africa. We need a God like the God of the Bible to have a hell that says that is so evil, and I hate that. That's what God, we need both the judge and the love of God.
So, from what I understand, hell is the absence of God's light, correct?
I don't know about that. I'm personally unsure about if God is present in hell or if hell is the absence of God. I think God's present in hell because God's omnipresent. He's everywhere.
There's a beautiful quote from some other cultures, some text. I'll have to send it to you because I'm not going to find it right now. But basically, it's a story about how, if I sent you this story about God and the devil and how the devil was really the truest lover of God.
The idea that Lucifer was condemned to hell because he loved God so much.
Yeah, that's a basic Muslim idea about Iblis. That's the Muslim name for Satan, being God's greatest lover. Why was Satan thrown into hell? Well, the standard story is that when God created the angels, he told them to bow to none but himself. Then he created man, whom he regarded as a higher form than the angels, and he asked the angels then to serve man. And Satan would not bow to man. Now, this is interpreted in the Christian tradition, as I recall from my boyhood instruction, as being the egotism of Satan. He would not bow to man. But in this view, he could not bow to man because of his love for God. He could bow only to God. And then God says, "Get out of my sight." Now, the worst of the pains of hell, insofar as hell has been described, is the absence of the beloved, which is God. So how does Iblis sustain the situation in hell? By the memory of the echo of God's voice when God said, "Go to hell." And I think that's a great sign of love, you see?
And he couldn't betray God's first words, and It's a beautiful story. That's where I got the absence of God's light for hell. But those people live in the absence of God's light. Their existence, I have to suspect, is very much a hell to live like that, or to live and think that that's good. But I also believe in reincarnation. So in my belief system, if you are that bad person, and I think you have to be everything once, but if you're living like that, you will have to balance your karma out in your next life. You will be the abused if you're the abuser. You will be this or that, and that's kind of hell. Putting
Do you
people
have
through
a
that.
label? Do you label yourself as any type of?
I study the all. I've studied, and I will continue to adopt
New Age. Would New Age be fair?
New Age, okay. I have a huge issue with that statement, or the concept of New Age. Back when I was like 15, 20 years ago, you would go to the New Age section of the bookstore to read the books that were written about stuff that was ancient. So it's not really New Age back then. But now there is a New Age spiritual movement, like the star seeds and all that other stuff.
Basically, put a little piece of everything, and then that's your new.
No, I'm a pagan, I guess. I don't worship anything other than the all. I worship oneness in a way, but I don't have a religion or a title for it because I keep trying to gain more from everything I can. I'll try to take in all. There was a term that you'd probably be familiar with, but I cannot remember it. Yeah, my memory's trash. I'm constantly in the state of study where I can't remember anything and just sort of absorb little bits of it.
Study is very annoying in that way.
What is?
Like studying,
yeah.
like, oh, I forgot everything.
I think that's a good thing, though. It's in there somewhere. It'll incorporate with what you need.
I agree. I also think if I wrote more and like produced videos or something, it would come back and I'd find myself spewing out what I have learned.
I have a problem with that because I will not be able to put everything I know in one event, and then I'm like, there's so much more I can put in a video,
Yeah.
It never comes out.
Do you ever read in the Bible at all, like as part of your learning? You are anti-Bible.
Anti-Bible. Okay. So I'm going to tell you something I might have already told you, but I don't tell many people. I'm trying to come to terms with coming out about the whole thing.
You want to have this be on camera?
You can cut it out of your video if you want.
Okay.
When I was young, I used to wear a cross. And I also believe I had experiences. Oh, yeah.
Start over.
Okay. I did used to wear a cross. And yep. This is really not easy for me to say. I've had experiences that felt very forsaken by God. I felt like God clearly had not had my back in the situation. So that's when I sort of, instead of just casting off the shackles of Christianity, I went full force against it. And so I have not read the Bible. I took that class a couple years ago about all the religions, and it made me realize I had more respect for Jesus than I would have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And since then, I've tried to let myself absorb, but because I had faith as a child in something that couldn't protect me from whatever happened, I am a little anti-Bible. But I'm trying to not be. I'm trying to be bigger than that and to accept that everything happens for a reason, and that if I can gain a way to be better to people and help people, then it's worth looking into.
I definitely hope I wasn't hurtful when I said anti-Bible.
Sorry?
I definitely hope I wasn't. It didn't hurt you when I said you're anti-Bible.
No, it didn't hurt me. It didn't hurt me at all.
Well, thanks for telling me that.
Yeah. It's not Christianity's fault, so I can't blame them anymore.
On John 14, I think 14:6, Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No man comes unto the Father except through me.
Fair enough. I can't disagree because if I think of what Jesus stood for, I think that is the way that you could become truly holy, divine, good. The Father. The right way. But let's cut this now, if you don't mind, if that's good. And
Sure.
I gotta get ready for work very soon. Do you work tonight?
No, I'm actually in my hometown, Warsaw, Indiana.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Go to church.
visiting the fam for a few days.
It's really home with the family is an element of the divine, I think.
Yeah.
Good talk, though. I hope we can do this again. I forgot about Zoom being a real face-to-face thing. Then I don't have to try to like leave the house.
Yeah, this is not too bad. I kind of despise the virtual life that has been foisted upon us, but yeah,
What
I would
year were you
love
born, by
to
the
keep
way? If it's okay
Huh?
for me to look at the chart. What year were you born?
93,
93. Okay.
November 93,
The 21st?
22nd.
22nd. Okay. I'm gonna look up your chart and tell you exactly how it's gonna confirm that you are on the path of God. You'll be impressed, I'm sure.
Good. Let's do it again. Let's just do it again, even
I agree.
when I don't have an assignment.
I agree completely. This is good for me, and I hope that it, in a way, will help you in any way.
For sure. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good day.
Peace. You too.